So that punk Mario thinks that just because he found some yellow cape means he can fly. Well, guess what, Mario? I got a cape too. I might need to be higher. Mario!
I believe I can fly.
Hey everyone, my name is Hardy and welcome back to Hardy's Backlog. Today we're going to be taking a look at a game that, not gonna lie, it's made me feel kinda sinful to talk about. You see, whenever I'm talking about video games with one of my fellow gamers, there's always a list of games that comes up that I feel a bit guilty about saying, like, yeah, I never played that. Skyrim is one of those great examples. I played very little bit of Skyrim, but everybody else loves it. And another one of those games is Super Mario World. You see, I originally planned on holding off on Super Mario World until it came out on the Switch with the Virtual Console because it just seemed like the absolute best way to play it. And well, I guess that's not happening for a very, very, very long time, it seems. So here we are instead playing it on an emulator, the way Nintendo intended. God, I'm so smart. I actually didn't even write that intended thing, that just popped into my brain. I legitimately feel proud of that. So growing up, I was never really into 2D platformers. I kind of blame my ADHD for that because despite what Sonic wants you to think, 2D platformers really do require a lot more precision and slow-based gameplay, which is not really what my childhood mind was into at the time. I loved 3D platformers, I loved racing games, I loved fighting games, I loved action games, action-adventure games, anything that would keep my mind moving quick. Tony Hawk games were my crack as a kid because it's just non-stop chaos. I loved those kind of games, and nothing about 2D games really got me excited. It also probably had something to do with they felt old, and it's like, why would I want to go back and play an old game when I have all these new, better games that I could be playing? That was an unfortunate mindset I had as I was a kid. Thankfully, that's something I'm changing, although I don't think I'd ever want to go back and play like an Atari game, but Super Nintendo games and the likes are a lot more intriguing to me now. And then last year, I ended up playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and then later on Sonic Mania, which had some issues. I will see you in hell, Oil Ocean. And it got me really excited. They were the first 2D platformer games I've ever completely beaten before. I guess that's not true. I played The Cat in a Hat on the Game Boy Advance, which was technically my first video game I ever beat. Maybe that's why I didn't like 2D platformers, actually. And to probably no surprise, when I started this series about games I've always wanted to play, Super Mario World was very high up on that list. So without further delay, let's take a trip to Dinosaur Land with one of the most popular and beloved games of all time. No pressure, Super Mario World. See, I hope you don't think I'm joking when I say it's one of the most beloved games of all time. Super Mario World is often cited as one of the greatest games of all time. In fact, I have a little list here just to name some of the accolades that it's received. So let's start the first annual How Freaking Great Is This Game by Full Hardy Awards. And the awards for Super Mario World are the 1991 Game of the Year. A poll by Empire Magazine listed it as the best Nintendo game of all time. Nintendo's own magazine listed it as the 3rd greatest game of all time. That one might be a little biased. Of course, Nintendo Power listed it as the 5th greatest game of all time. Not sure if that list just included Nintendo games. I'd have a hard time believing Nintendo Power was like, oh my god, did you guys play Fallout? How cool was that? But what if they did? I never actually read a Nintendo Power. It was the Kids' Choice Award Game of the Year in 1994? That's a few years too late, isn't it? And of course, it's been included on a best of game lists from the likes of Electronic Gaming Monthly, Game Informer, Retro Gamer, GameSpot, and specifically Retro Gamer named it the best platformer of all time. So as you can tell, this game's a little beloved, so it makes me a little bit nervous, to be honest, about making this video, because I have some negative thoughts about it. Nothing too horrible, but I feel like before we get too far into this, I really have to preface this whole video with a bit of context, I guess. So there's 2 things about this game that I absolutely hated and would have ruined my experience for the game if I didn't put some modifications on it. Those 2 things are the game over system and the lack of a save system. And don't get me wrong, I understand why game overs exist, alright? That's probably a video I'll make another day discussing it in much more detail, but I understood why they existed back then. But there's no reason for game overs to exist today. It does absolutely nothing but pad out the length of a game for absolutely no reason when there's much better ways that developers could be doing that. Sonic Mania. But the thing that really bugged me about this game was the lack of a save system, because I am not that great at 2D platformers. To no shock, this is only really my 3rd one I've ever truly played, and it's not, you know, known as the easiest game in the world. So I worked very, very hard to get through some of these levels, and then I would die. And guess what? Not only did I lose my 2 lives I had left, I'm sent back like 2 or 3 levels that I already struggled to get through. I hated it. That does not feel like that's how video games should be. I'm being punished for being bad at the game, and not just punished as in going back to the beginning of that level, sending me back like 20 minutes worth of playtime for stuff I already did. So the modifications I did on this, one of them was an in-game taking advantage of some in-game mechanics. The other one is a bit more controversial. I did take advantage of the secret area, I believe, and it's called in World 2, where you can pretty much get an unlimited amount of life. So I did go there pretty often and stock up on 99 lives to eliminate the whole game over thing. And I did use save states. Now, I don't think most of you will be too angry about that, because I did run a poll on Twitter and it was a more positive response of, yeah, use save states, it's a very outdated mechanic. And I know there's going to be that group of you that are like, well, that's how the game was back then, that's what makes it challenging, that's how you should play it. Well, alright, I mean, if that's your opinion, I don't think you're wrong. If that's how you enjoy the game, that's good for you, but this is how I see it. That was essential and useful and great back then. You know what else was great 20 years ago? Well, great might be a bit of a stretch. Dial-up internet. There's a reason nobody uses dial-up internet now. There's a reason that if there was some town that's like, guess what? We've banned all internet connection except for phone line. There might be some riots. It was wonderful back then. I appreciate what it did for us, but it is completely outdated and serves no real purpose in today's society. That's kind of how I feel about some of the choices in older games. You know, just because it was great back then does not mean it fits in today's world. So if me taking advantage of the whole one-up thing and me using save states in between levels, I didn't use them in the middle levels, in between levels, bothers you? I don't know what to say, man. Like, nothing else I say is going to change your mind. I've explained my point of view. If you think differently, if you only ever want to play through the original game, I don't think you're wrong. I'm glad you enjoy the game the way you do. These are just my feelings on it, so I hope we can, you know, agree to disagree. But with that a little bit out of the way, let's get to the point you guys are actually here for, the video game. Alright, so when I heard about the story of Super Mario World, I was a bit shocked, because get this guys, get this. Well, hold on a second. Alright then, Bowser kidnaps Peach. Who saw that one coming? So apparently a lot of the story actually is not really told in the game, which I guess isn't really that surprising because it just throws you right into platforming as Mario. Apparently, Mario, Peach, and Luigi were all off vacationing in Dinosaur Land, and Mario and Luigi woke up one day and Peach was gone. Must have been Bowser, he followed you guys all the way here to Dinosaur Land just to steal... Oh, it actually was Bowser, never mind. Not only has he stolen Peach, but he's also stolen all of Yoshi's friends for some reason. I don't know why he took the Yoshis unless he's going to turn them into minions. They don't need to explain this stuff. So yeah, you travel through Dinosaur Land and all its different parts, including Cookie Island, I think, and Choco Mountain, and that cave. All the places are named after food. That doesn't mean I'm gonna remember them, okay? Of course, you won't just be fighting Bowser along the way. At the end of each of the worlds, you'll be fighting one of his kids, the Koopalings. Now, at first I thought this is actually where they debuted, but it turns out they're originally from Super Mario World 3, and oh my god, Lemmy, what happened to you? How did you go from that to this? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, they took a bit of a graphical hit in this game for some reason. I also found out while reading up about the Koopalings that not only were they ugly in this game, but they're also all named after famous musicians, including Lemmy, who was already my favorite, is named after Motorhead's lead singer, Lemmy Kilmister. How freaking cool is that? Once you make your way through the first 6 worlds of the game, you'll end up in the Valley of Bowser, where you finally have a chance to save your princess. And you do just that. You defeat Bowser in a pretty cool battle, to be honest. We'll get to that one a bit later, and Peach is rescued. To be honest, I kind of expected a bit of a plot twist here. You know, I played a lot of the more modern Mario games, like I think Galaxies from Mario 3D World, Mario Odyssey, where after you beat Bowser, you then fight Bowser again, but bigger. And this really surprised me. In fact, I sat on the game over screen, not the game over, the end of, the end screen for like 3 minutes waiting for something to happen, just mashing the buttons. Because I thought, something was going to happen. I'd at least go back to the title screen. Nah, it turns out once you see that screen, you have to reset your console. See, this game took a very kind of Legend of Zelda approach where once you do the final boss, that literally is it. So anytime you want to go to the special levels or any of the bonus stages or complete anything else, you technically have to do it before facing Bowser if you want to have a true 100% run. And that reminds me, these special stages and all the bonus worlds and all that, I did not play those. And that's probably gonna upset some of you, although most of you probably already hate me, but I'm not doing this series to 100% games. Hat in Time was a bit of an oddity because it's one of my favorite games of all time. I'd probably go back and 100% it right now if I could. But most of these games I'm just playing, from the canonical beginning to the canonical end, if you will. From start to finish. Hopefully you understand what I mean. And I barely got through Super Mario World as it is. The idea of even more challenging levels kind of spooked me away a bit, to be honest. But after you rescue Peach, you, her, and... oh, right, yeah, Luigi's in this game. But you all go on vacation to celebrate the end of your vacation, which makes me wonder... is this a direct prequel to Mario Sunshine? I mean, if you take the Mario timeline and put Mario 64 before Super Mario World 3, because I believe canonically Mario World 3 goes directly into Super Mario World. Say Mario World 3, I meant Super Mario Bros. 3. Goes directly into Super Mario World. So if you put Mario 64 before Super Mario Bros. 3 on the timeline, because in Mario Sunshine they show some Super Mario 64 footage when you're getting FLUDD, this could technically be a direct sequel to Super Mario World. And, I mean, Yoshi's in it. That's pretty cool. I bet I'm the first one to ever make that discovery. And that's pretty much the story of Super Mario World. It's pretty simple, but I mean, it's a 2D platformer, so I'm not really sure what else you're expecting. Besides, Super Mario World is 98% gameplay, so let's talk about that right after this. Who's that Mario? It's Mario! Woohoo! I'm sorry about that. So I was really excited about Super Mario World because, for the most part, my entire experience with Mario games in the past, besides, sports games and racing, all that, have been the 3D ones. Mario Sunshine, Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, Galaxy 2, 3D World, 3D Land, and of course Odyssey. I love them all. They would definitely rank pretty darn high up on my best of games list personally. I really believe Nintendo has truly mastered the art of controlling a character. I mean, in every one of those games, Mario feels darn near perfect. I mean, your backflips, your somersaults, your side flips, your triple jumps, your long dives, your dolphin dives, everything Mario does just feels so great and you have so much control over him. And then you go to this and you can jump up once, you go back and forth, I guess. That's cool. So yeah, it was a bit of a culture shock to go from the, oh my gosh, isn't 3D Mario amazing, to, well, I can walk across a line. That's always fun. All jokes aside though, Nintendo still just continued to prove how freaking great they are at this stuff. Mario feels amazing. Despite the fact that I'm not great at 2D platformers specifically, almost never did I die and feel like it was the game's fault platforming wise. If I missed a platform or undershot or overshot a jump, more than likely I felt like it was either my fault or, and I know this is a really stupid excuse, my controller's fault. See, I was playing this on a Xbox One controller plugged into my PC, and it's probably not built for 2D platforming gaming, especially with a thumbstick. So there were several times when I felt like I didn't have complete control over Mario, but I don't blame the game for that at all. Nintendo, for as long as I know now, has been just masters of controlling your character. They just feel so tight and so good, and Super Mario World is absolutely no different. Everything I did in this game felt right. And as you control Mario, you'll be going through several different levels throughout the Dinosaur World, Dinosaur Land, Dinosaur Kingdom, Dinosaur Cookies, Dinosaur Chicken Nuggets. Oh, I'm hungry. As you go through each level, your mission is to reach the goal flag at the end of each level. Why? I really have no idea. I'm guessing it's to signify like, oh, we're that much closer to making it through this mountain and we're getting close to the Bowser. But I don't really know what the point of these flagpoles are, to be honest. Goal posts, I guess, is technically their term, is they're more football related. The football guys, the charging chucks, the flagpole, the football goalpost. It all makes sense now. God, I hate those freaking football guys too. They were always annoying. I'll get to enemies in a bit, but oh, charging chucks are so bad. But it all makes so much sense now. Especially that one where he's right in front of the goalpost. Flag thing. He's the football player. This is a football game. There was also I feel like I had a bit of a revelation there, but there was also mini goalposts or flag posts. What is their name? What did I put? Checkpoints. Apparently I just wrote checkpoints, so that's what we're gonna call them now. There's also mini checkpoints you can find in the middle of the missions used as well. Oh, that's why I put checkpoints, because they're checkpoints. This has been a bad video so far. Checkpoints you can find, they save your progress. The one weird thing I found about these checkpoints is that they like to make them difficult to get to, which I kind of disagreed with. I mean, if the first half of the level was quite challenging and I found it tough to get through, I don't think it's very good to punish the less experienced players by not letting them have a checkpoint. Those checkpoints are what I strive for when I'm going through a 2D platformer. If I get through a really challenging section, I desperately want a checkpoint, and I don't want to have to see that it's like up on top of a mountain. I gotta jump up to it or hope that I don't fall into pit underneath it. It's really kind of douchey. I just don't really understand this game's idea of punishing less experienced players, because at least for me, it doesn't make me want to continue playing. In fact, this technically isn't the first time I played Super Mario World. About a year ago, I tried playing it just on my own, and I got to about World 2, and I really started to struggle with some of the levels because of my lack of experience, and I kept getting game overs, and I kept getting pushed back 2 or 3 levels, and it was just really demotivating, and I just quit. And going back to the save states, that's a huge reason why I did decide to use those, because I knew I tried this game before, and I'm not very good at these kind of games, and I just wanted to enjoy my time. But that's enough ranting about the goal flags, because at the end of each world you will run into one of Bowser's children, the Koopalings, like I mentioned before, and this is one of the strongest parts of the entire game. I loved the mini castle levels because they were challenging, but I felt very, very rewarded when I finally beat them. And the boss fights most of them were very unique, fun, creative ways to battle these monsters. I was very worried from my knowledge of 2D Mario games that it would just be, there's Bowser, he jumps up, you go under, hit the axe, he's dead. I'd have to do that 8 times, and that sounded really boring. But the first 5 or 6 Bowser Kid fights were so much fun. I didn't know what I was going to get into. It was fun learning their patterns, and then they started to repeat. I felt so disappointed when the Bowser Kids boss levels started to repeat each other in theme, especially when they weren't even the same Koopalings in the fights. Like, you got so close, guys, to designing fun levels for each of the Koopalings, and you just kind of gave up. And I did see that apparently shortly after the game released, Miyamoto said that he didn't think it was that great because it was rushed, mainly due to the console wars. And I wonder if this is one of the areas that was affected by that. It just seems so random to have a boss fight very early on in the game and then see that exact same boss fight near the end, just with a different Koopaling in it and like an extra fireball flying around. I was really disappointed because up to that point I loved the boss levels. They were so much fun to face, it was fun trying to figure out their strategies, and it was really deflating to just see, oh, it's just a remix of what I did earlier. Of course, if you're going to talk about boss fights, you gotta talk about Bowser. And oh boy, was Bowser weird. You see, I don't know if it was me just finally starting to get good at the game or not, but the Valley of Bowser was one of the easiest worlds in the entire game for me. And then you get to Bowser's Castle, which is the absolute biggest joke in the entire game. I don't know if it was kind of a, oh, here's the calm before the storm kind of thing, but if you take like doors 2 and 6, I believe, like I did, you can be through Bowser's Castle in like 30 seconds. Maybe I did just get good. I don't know. I thought they were going to make you go through every single room in Bowser's Castle. I mean, it's the final level in the game, make it big and epic, but no. Just, oh, if you know the right strategy, you'll immediately get through it. It's weird. But yeah, Bowser's boss fight itself is a ton of fun. I absolutely loved it. Like I mentioned earlier in the story section, I did think there was going to be a second part to it because it seemed kind of short, you know, 3 phases and then it's over. I guess that's kind of normal for like a big finale Mario boss, but I don't know, it was fun, but kind of underwhelming, like kind of lackluster. It felt really cool. The music was fun. Bowser's graphics, his sprite popping out, was one of the highlights of the entire game. It looked so cool, and the fight was fun, but it's almost like I was expecting it to be more challenging. And again, that could be I was finally starting to get good at the game. Who knows? Speaking of graphics, I want to touch on this really quick. That is one of the things that stood out most to me in this game. That's one of the things that made me want to play this game the most, because I originally ran a poll of this versus Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. 3. And I'm very glad this won because it has one of the most iconic and absolutely adorable graphic styles I've ever seen. Like Mario jumping up and down, his little chest puffing out, all his power-ups, the cape, Yoshi, the well, not the Koopalings. Bowser looks super cool. Just the art style used in this game blew my mind as I actually got to play through it. Everything just looks so nice and colorful and pretty. Mario specifically might be one of the best sprite works I've ever seen. Just, he looks so phenomenal. I really got to check out the Super Mario World version of Super Mario Maker because I bet it's just even better. So as you go through the game, there's a lot of things for you to collect or pick up that will help you on your adventure. Of course, the obvious one being a Mario game is coins. Coins serve not really any major function. They help guide you through the levels, showing you the right direction to go at times, and if you collect 100 of them, you get an extra life, which didn't really mean anything for me. But I mean, also, I really shouldn't say no to free lives, I guess. I don't know. But you'll also see dragon coins along the way, these coins that have Yoshi's face on them. There's 5 of them in each level, and if you manage to collect all of them, you'll get a 1-up. Again, not really anything that mattered to me, but something really cool for completionists to go after. Of course, you also got your 1-ups. Apparently there's a 3-up moon. I actually only ever found it one time. I didn't even know it existed until I stumbled across it. Again, for me, those things really didn't matter. Of course, then you also have your power-ups, the Super Mushroom, the Super Star, the Fire Flower, the Pea Balloon, and the Cape Feather. The Super Mushroom I'm going to put off to the side for a moment because I want to come back to that. But the Fire Flower, exactly as you expect, Mario shoots fire, it destroys enemies, some enemies if it hits it, not really much else. Pea Balloon, weird. Just going to put a weird on that one now. I used it maybe twice the entire time, only to get secret exits, I believe, usually, and it's just a, I'm a big balloon now. Yay! I hope nobody popped me. That would be unfortunate. The Starman, or the Superstar, as it's known in this game, was also not super useful. I only remember one time when it was kind of cool as I was dropping down this really long black area. There was Koopas and coins everywhere, and I was invincible, so that was a lot of fun. And then of course you have the mascot item of the game, if you will, the cape feather, and my favorite item for sure. That should come as no surprise though. If you play this game and the cape feather isn't your favorite, something weird's going on. The cape feather gives you the ability to float, which was so essential for me with my platforming. I love that feature. That's what I used it for most of the time. But it also gave the ability to fly. And this is, if you go back to my Hat in Time video, if you watch that, I mentioned that I was spoiled by games liking to hold my hand nowadays and really walk me through everything. I do think there's a nice middle ground though, because this game just doesn't teach you how to fly, and for the life of me, I kept dying trying to use it because I could never find a good place to practice with it that didn't put me in a pit or into a bunch of enemies where I'd immediately lose it. And I knew you can, keep flying if you went like up and down, and I assumed that meant on a controller you went up and down. Well, yeah, it turns out that's not what it is, and I died like 5 times, and I'm like, screw it, I'm just gonna look it up, and you actually have to move the controller left and right to keep flying. Maybe that's in the manual that comes with this game. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have access to the manual, but if it is, I apologize, Super Mario World. I shouldn't be yelling at you for that, but I had no idea how to use this darn cape. It was such a struggle. I really hope it's in the manual, otherwise that's kind of dickish of you guys, because it's actually required to fly long term with the cape in order to actually beat the game. And then there's this super mushroom, and I know what you're thinking, but Hardy, you're forgetting a certain green creature. Don't worry, we'll get to him. The super mushroom was weird in this game, because when I think of the super mushroom, here's how I put the Mario. Like, we got baby Mario, we got super mushroom, Super Mario, and then we got his power-ups. But in Super Mario World, the Super Mario is put here on the same level as the power-ups. I didn't like that personally, because when I think of it, I'm like, oh, alright, so when I go from Super Mario, if I get an item block, I'm gonna get a super mushroom. And that's how it is in this game. If you hit an item block as Baby Mario, I don't know what his actual name is, you'll get a super mushroom. You won't get an actual power-up. And then, if you hit a block as Super Mario, you'll get the Cape Feather or a Fire Flower or Superstar or something like that. What's weird about that is if you take damage while powered up, you go back to Baby Mario. So Super Mario was put on the same level as the other power-ups as far as the hierarchy of how Mario evolves, but you can't get a power-up unless you're Super Mario. So it seems like it should have been if you get hit while powered up, you'd go back to Super Mario stage, essentially giving you 2 hits. And maybe that's what bothers me about this, is I just want 2 hits because I'm not very good at it. But it also seemed weird that you have to be Super Mario to get a power-up, but if you lose that power-up, you go right back to Baby Mario. I don't know, I'm complaining too much, maybe, but that's just my thoughts about the weird super mushroom of this game. And of course, we have everybody's favorite, well, second favorite green little creature, Yoshi. Yoshi, best thing you can get in this game. If you find a Yoshi, you better try to stay on that Yoshi, because he will try to kill himself as quick as possible. Yoshi can squish giant moles bigger than him, but if he like bumps into a Goomba, he's gonna find the nearest cliff and run the heck off that thing. What's probably more annoying though than Yoshi like killing himself is when he runs away after he gets hit and he goes into a pit filled with like Goombas or Koopas, and then you can go down there and get him, but the second you get on him, you're gonna take enemy damage and bounce right back off him, and there's basically no way to get him out of that pit, so you just kind of have to stare there and think, Yoshi, you're in the pit with the things that you fear the most. Why do you need to talk? We can sit down, we can take a moment from our adventure and just hash out our feelings, man. You just gotta let me know I'm there for you, Yosh. We're bros. We're bros. Come on, put there, Yosh. Put there. Put there. You, me, Yosh. Forever. Of course, my favorite part of having Yoshi is that he can just eat enemies, which makes some levels complete jokes. Apparently, if he eats a blue shell Koopa, it allows him to fly? I'm guessing this is a reference to his, this is where his smash attack comes from. I never found a blue Koopa, though, that I can eat with Yoshi, so I never got to experience it, sadly. Of course, the worlds that you travel through to pick up these power-ups, I have a few complaints about as well, but some praise, don't worry, don't worry. In fact, let's start with the praise. Level design in this game is phenomenal. Almost no two levels felt the same, even the ghost houses, which are basically designed to be the same, each one felt unique. I really liked the ghost house, which I didn't think I would at first, because the first one I had no idea what I was doing in the ghost house, and I was walking around in that loop for like 10 minutes before I finally just broke and googled it, and it turns out you just gotta go the other way. That freaking arrow made of coins could just go choke on a Koopa. Alright, rude. That's when I learned that this game is out to deceive you and hurt you. But later on, the level design in those ghost houses was so creative, it made me think, I just had a lot of fun with it. Love the ghost houses, they're probably one of my highlights. Underwater levels, hate them all. Didn't enjoy a single underwater level, they can all go to hell. My least favorite section of the game was definitely the Forest of Illusions, because this is definitely the epitome of the gray area between not enough help and too much help, because I completed that loop of the Forest of Illusions and had no idea what I was doing. I knew secret exits existed, but I never knew they were mandatory to beat the game. I thought they were just fun things to do for people who like to seek out the secrets that may take you even further in the game. I had no idea that I actually had to go and find them. And what would have helped is, like, after you complete that initial loop, maybe just a little pop-up on the box saying, oh, it seems we're going in a loop. Maybe there's a secret somewhere. And I get it, it's called Forest of Illusions, but I'm really stupid. You gotta play around my strengths here, okay? And then when I finally did find those stupid secret exits, I found all the wrong secret exits, which made it even more frustrating. But I finally got through that Forest of Illusions, and the next time they tried to pull that crap on me, oh, I was ready. Also, did I mention the underwater levels and how much I hate them? Because I really hope I did, because they're horrible. Mario's physics underwater, I'm sorry I praised Mario's control earlier, because gosh, I hate being underwater. It just feels wrong, alright? That's not how Mario's meant to be. I hated all the underwater levels. I was very happy when they were over with and gone and behind me, and just no desire to go back to them. I did not like the underwater levels. Sorry if you disagree, they were crap. Even if I even wanted to try to give an underwater level of praise though, it would be the music. Super Mario World has some of the most iconic music of all time. Even though this is my first playthrough of the game, I knew almost all the tracks already just because of how iconic they are, being featured in other Mario games, remixes I've seen on YouTube, and of course Smash Bros. But the music suffers from the same flaw that I think the level design suffers from, and that's the lack of variety. Because as much as I love the actual physical level design, and as much as I love the music that's played in this game, you see and hear the same things so many times, it does start to get a bit repetitive. I mean, levels in World 1 sound and look exactly the same as levels later in the game. It doesn't really make any sense and kind of breaks the unity and immersion in this world. And I get they couldn't have 50 different songs and 50 different backgrounds. I understand that, but I think if anything, this game could have benefited from better organization. Like, if you just showed me an in-game screenshot of any level, I would have no way of telling you what world that's from. And I think that's a problem, because Donut Plains, Choco Mountain, Valley of Bowser, even somewhat, they all feel the same once you're in the actual levels, and that's not how it should be. I want each world to be unique and different and have its own vibe and theme. And I know they did that in later Mario games, and they're chastised for, oh, there's the water world, there's the desert world, there's the forest world. But you know what? They at least had unity. You know when you were in that world what kind of stuff you were gonna get. And Super Mario World feels very disoriented, it feels very jumbled, nothing really feels like it has unity, and it's sad because it's such a good game. I loved playing it, but it also just feels like they just made the levels and then they're like, crap, where do we piece this into the puzzle? And then nothing feels like it's in sequential order. That's the one really big complaint I have about this game, is I wish it had more unity. Of course, the final thing I want to talk about this game is one of the things you'll run into the most often in the game, the enemies. I won't waste too much of your time because we've already been going for a bit here, but I just want to give a shout out to some of my favorite enemies, including the Monty Moles I really liked, as well as the Boos, of course, are always just a ton of fun to face. Also, I don't know what these little like wannabe substitute for Pokemon things going across the floor are, but they are just weird and annoying and kind of, you know, obstacles. They're not the worst, but I didn't even know they existed till I played this game. I don't know if they were in any other games. Some of the ones I hated though, I made a reference to before. The charging chucks, I absolutely hated those. Every time I saw one, I got really frustrated, as well as the Magic Koopas. And not necessarily because of the Magic Koopas themselves, more because of how they were used. There's one specific level, I don't remember what level it is, but you have to get a Magic Koopa to destroy a specific block so you can go through the level. And these Magic Koopas do not want to help you out at all. There were so many times where I was like, please just destroy this block. There's a dry bones in here that I gotta keep killing, and he just wouldn't hit it, and I just couldn't get through. And when I finally did get through, I just fall into a pit of lava and have to go through the whole cycle again. I hated having to rely on that Magic Koopa for me to beat the level. Very, very frustrating. Also, there's Blarg, and Blarg is just a good boy. And of course, you're gonna have the underwater enemies, but I hate them all, so. That's pretty much Super Mario World. If I had to say what my final thoughts on it were, I'd say Super Mario World, and hopefully I'm not overhyping it a bit here, kind of changed the way I thought about video games. You see, despite what Sonic wants you to think, 2D platformer games are not meant to be fast. Super Mario World made me realize that 2D platformer games are more like puzzles than they are fast-paced fun games, where you take this segment of platforming and you master it and you keep doing it, and you're an expert, and you move on to the next one and you move to the next piece of this puzzle called the level. And I really had to learn that, because early on my instincts, even now if I were to boot up the game and start playing, my instinct is to go. I hold that left stick and I just go and I run into an enemy and I die, and my very first immediate reaction is, that's not fair. How was I supposed to know that enemy's there? Like, there's nothing I could have done. That's because I've got so used to the kind of games I'm playing where you can beat it on the first or second time, and they don't like to pull those shenanigans on you where, oh, here's an enemy, now you're dead. And it wasn't until about halfway through the game that it finally just like clicked for me, where I realized I can't play this game like I do other games. I have to take it slow. I have to not see that enemy popping out as unfair. I have to see it as a learning experience, because now I know that that enemy is going to pop out there. Now I know that Koopa's going to slide down that ramp. Now I know that Moa is going to pop up out of the ground. I know that now. And next time I know to avoid that and to maneuver around it. That is what I learned from Super Mario World. And this was such a contrast to me from the 3D Mario games, because those, there isn't really repetition or anything like that. Once you beat something, you beat it. You only usually takes 1 or 2 times to get through a challenge in those games. It was so different. Oh god, my battery's about to die. Okay, I'm gonna hurry this up. Super Mario World is a game that made me feel tense, angry, sad, happy, and really excited when I finally beat a level. It was one of the most exhilarating games I've ever played, one of the most frustrating games I ever played, and I absolutely loved every second of it. Well, most seconds of it. The underwater levels are still there. But I don't think I would have enjoyed it without the modifications I put on it. So while I check this game off my backlog, I do have to say, if you're going to play this, I recommend playing the Game Boy Advance version, where they actually did implement their own save system, or playing the Virtual Console versions on 3DS or Wii U, where you can use your own save states. I don't recommend playing the old SNES version unless you want that nostalgia factor. That's up to you. That's my opinion now. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Super Mario World. We're going to be going to another Mario game pretty soon, but we'll be taking a... Alright, my camera just died. I'm sorry. Middle recording just shut off. I can't believe it. So instead you're going to be seeing some stupid picture. I'm sorry about that. But before we get to our next Mario game, which will be Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars, we'll be taking a small journey somewhere else. But that's all for today, guys. Thank you very much for checking out this review. Hopefully my opinions weren't too controversial for you, and I'll see you guys next time. Starting to think it's not the game.